Hello, beautiful mystical souls. I am Chloe the Elven Mage. Thank you so much for being here. And as always, I have a very full cup here. Cheers to another episode of Coffee Shop Chats. So I have decided now, especially now because it is winter here in Oxfordshire in UK, that Coffee Shop Chats are going to be weekly for this foreseeable future. And I am drinking a coffee, and interestingly, me drinking a coffee goes very much on the theme of what I'm going to be talking about today. So I used to think that drinking coffee was not spiritual, that drinking coffee was going to kill me, and it was the worst thing in the world. Now, as I've come to believe and come to know, yes, of course, there are some effects of coffee that we should be aware of in the body and within the nervous system. For anyone that struggles with sleep, anyone that is really going through a stage of struggling with anxiety, has any nervous system imbalances, then perhaps separating from coffee may be a supportive thing to do, but coffee is not the devil. Coffee is a very strong stimulant and plant medicine within itself, which should be revered and treated with respect. But also for me, coffee is such a joy to drink. If I do drink coffee, it's one in the day. It is after breakfast, so always after I've eaten and after I've felt into whether I want the coffee or not and whether I want that caffeine. I do like decaf as well. Today I'm going for the full coffee because I'm still on my moon cycle. Again, controversial, but I do feel tired and I'm in the recovery physically. And I do want that little bit of caffeine and warmth in me. So here we go. Cheers. This is Coffee Shop Chats. First of all, thank you so much to all the new subscribers to my channel. Cheers and welcome here. So for those of you that are new, and those of you who aren't new, hello again. Please do feel free, if you want to join me now, in pausing the video and going and grabbing a hot drink, a cool drink, whatever kind of drink you fancy, because these videos are like an intimate chat between us where I share from my own personal experience in a non-pushy, non-judgmental, open-minded and open-hearted way, so that hopefully you can leave this perhaps just thinking or feeling about things a little bit differently than when you first arrived. I absolutely in no way force my opinions on anyone. In fact, I would encourage you and even celebrate you in having your own opinions, own experience of life, own moral standards and values to build your life upon. Yes, we are all a part of the same loving universal oneness and consciousness. However, we are all souls here having our own separate experiences, and there is beautiful, unique authenticity to that. So just to welcome you again, I am Chloe the Elven Mage, currently residing in Oxfordshire. This new year may bring new things for me, who knows? I'm not going to reveal too much yet, but I am from England, you can probably hear in my accent, currently residing in the beautiful Oxfordshire in the countryside in the UK. I'm a full-time artist, mage, mentor, and currently doing a lot of one-to-one witch activations and quantum healing. I am currently transitioning out of being a full-time meditation and Kundalini yoga teacher. So that is my background. I'm also a certified embodiment coach. So I do have a background in life coaching as well. So I like to bring all of those tools and experiences here to this space to hopefully, what I'm aiming for is a grounded and very human place for conversation and pondering about the more esoteric topics of life. So, welcome. Here we go. I've got my favourite mug as well today, my cat mug. I'm a crazy cat lady. I have Pippin, my cat. He is right next to me on the chair. And this is my little office space. And as I mentioned, here in Oxfordshire, for the foreseeable future, rain is predicted. Like, I was all ready to go outside today into the woods and do a wandering and pondering video, which I haven't done for 2 weeks now because of the weather. But yeah, it's just been non-stop rain. So as soon as the sun comes out this week, I will be running out there and getting a video. I just find it difficult filming in the rain with the cameras and all of the equipment and all of that jazz, and to be honest, I just don't really enjoy. I like walking in the rain, but only if I can just be like, yeah, and that's a bit difficult when you have filming and camera equipment. So you might be seeing me in this environment a little more at the moment. So that brings me on to today's topic, which I will just give a trigger warning now for anyone. So just want to be trauma informed. Anyone who gets triggered by spiritual, political, or gender topics, if you are feeling in a sensitive spot about any of those things right now, you may just want to pause this video and come back to it when you feel ready to explore some of these topics. I was guided to do an interview for myself. I've done this before. I'll link it at the end of this video for anyone that's interested. I did a coffee shop chats where I looked up on AI what are the top 10 greatest human fears at the moment, like right now. And I interviewed myself and talked through those fears and how they resonate and relate to my life and experiences. So I'm going to do something similar today where my guides were like, oh, you should do this because you don't talk much about political things. I'm like, I know, I don't want to be political. And I'm going to be very, very transparent. The reason why I used to be really political, by the way, I was just like a real freedom fighter, very fiery and quite aggressive with my opinions, took a step back. And I think a lot of, witch wounding and things have come to the surface where it's like, I just can't be bothered with the backlash that it can cause when we do speak our truth and we do stand up for what we believe in. However, if I was holding back my voice and my opinion in this safe space and this safe container that I have created with this channel, then I would not be true to the teachings and the guidance that I'm helping others with, and that is expressing your true, authentic voice, facing up to your fears, doing things that scare you and just growing through that. And also having an opinion. Healthy debate has been completely eradicated by modern society. Shutdown is just like so normalized now. Cancel culture has become a normal thing. Narratives from media and government control are so one-sided that you just get cancelled instantly, and it's just this blame shame game where it's like, hang on a minute, if we actually stop and pause for a moment and just let people speak, allow people to express themselves after some of the anger and the pain and the trauma and whatever else is there, once that has come out and been released, we may find that a lot of us are holding on to the same truths from within. So I really want to encourage not being scared of having your own opinion on things, and that there is a way to share things. And I do believe, and you'll hear me talking about this all the time with all sorts of spiritual and very human practices, it's like an instrument. We are learning how to play all of these different instruments and use these tools to our best ability. And I do feel that sharing is one of those, because yes, we are it is absolutely our birthright to speak our truth, and we can do this in a very fiery, harsh way, which is, again, your choice. But we can also choose to do it in a way where we share from the heart. I mean, it's easier when we know the people that we're sharing with. We already have sort of a filter that we can apply if we choose to meet their level of receptivity. So that's all a choice. But I do feel that it's important that we open up spaces for healthy conversational debates and healthily exploring and welcoming everyone's different opinions and experiences. I don't know why my screen just went dark there. Make sure I keep my hand on the mouse. All right, so that's what I'm going to be doing today. So this is one of the things I love about AI, because you can just type in what are the most hot debated spiritual and controversial topics right now, and it just gives me this list. Great, love it. So we're going to go through that. I'm going to go for the spiritual ones first of all, and then more economical and political. And I'm just totally sharing my opinion, and this is through, obviously, my own conditioning. My own life choices have influenced this, but I will also be the first person to put my hands up and say my opinions now are completely different, or definitely have changed or evolved or grown from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and they absolutely will shift and change and evolve going forwards. So I'm saying that honestly and openly to invite you again to perhaps be more fluid and more open to any real strong opinions that you have, and maybe think like, oh, maybe I can take a zoomed out perspective and feel into how this might feel for someone else in another experience. If I do say anything that upsets you or offends you, I'm sorry, that is not my intention. I am just sharing from my own experience. And I would say 5 years ago from now, at the time of the lockdowns and COVID, as I like to call it, again, take that as you wish, I was very, very angry. So I would be posting all kinds of stuff on my Facebook. I don't have Facebook anymore. Social media, just constantly shoving information down people's throats. Now, I don't think that is the right way to change anyone or help anyone, but I do feel like sharing how we feel in a calm and open-hearted manner could help inspire others. And even if you disagree with everything that I say, that's great. You know, that means there is diversity in the world. We don't want this follow the leader mentality. I want to inspire you to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. All right, so here we go. Again, trigger warning. Please, I want you to just be informed if you are feeling emotional or if you have any trauma around any of these topics. Pause and come back to this when you do feel more ready to explore this from a grounded place. All right, number one. I'm going to try and do this short fire answering because I've got a lot of questions and I want to get through them, and I don't want to digress too much and go into long things. But if anyone watching this, okay, so I've got two interactive points for you. If anyone watches this, if there is a question or a topic that you really want me to dive deeper into, let me know in the comments. So that's number one. And if there's something that is related that I don't cover in these questions that you feel is a really important spiritual, political, or economical question or topic right now that you would like me to speak on or explore, please share it in the comments, because I would love to speak on what is on my community's hearts. All right, so here we go. And these questions have not been devised by me. These are all collected from the internet by AI of what are the main controversial, these ones are spiritual, the main controversial, debatable spiritual questions right now, okay? So number 1, we've got, is manifestation a form of victim blaming? Well, I have to say that I have sort of mixed opinions about manifestation. If we zoom out from the whole idea of manifestation, of like ask, believe, receive, and all of that kind of new age movement that it has become, what I do believe in is that we are so freaking powerful that we truly can make real whatever we truly want in our hearts, but we also have to believe it within ourselves, and we have to visualize it, and we really have to take the actions towards it. So I do truly believe that we can make things real into our life, and I truly believe that we are the conductors, the architects, and the magicians of our life and our reality. So yes. But what I think this question is touching on is manifestation a form of victim blaming? So it's like someone could be like, well, you manifested this. You manifested this. You were asking for this. So if it's coming from that voice, then, well, that's quite narcissistic and quite toxic. But we could also flip that on its head and take it as self-accountability of like, do you know what? And I've done this before. I actually asked for this. I asked for this. I'm going to take accountability for it, and I'm going to learn from this. So every coin, we could see it as like blaming, or we could flip that round and just take responsibility, learn from it, and move on. Because there is that real toxicity of pointing the finger and blaming. And as soon as we draw that inwards and stand in our power and just say, okay, there are parts of this situation that I can take responsibility for, and I will own that, apologize if necessary, if not, also necessary, and then I can move on. The quicker we release ourselves from the chains of blame, victimhood, the quicker we will find freedom and move on. So is manifestation a form of victim blaming? It can be, but it depends on the intention and the person. I would say that would be a form of manipulation. As I mentioned, narcissistic tendencies where someone is getting into your head, making you feel like you've done something wrong because you've manifested or you've done it wrong. So it's it within itself, you creating the life, your dream life that you want, and creating that around you is not a form of victim blaming, but it can be misused and mistreated in an unhealthy way. Okay, that is my 5 pence on that question. Ooh, okay, so question dos. Should we use manifestation to change reality or only ourselves? Ooh. Well, I do truly believe that we can only change our reality when we change ourselves. But again, this is a complex idea because I do feel like if we want to change our reality, we need to have some kind of vision, an external vision of what it is that we want. So this is why vision boards or meditations where you visualize, or like going somewhere and, you know, viewing a house or viewing a car and being like, this is what I want. I feel that that is important, but I do feel like the main thing is changing ourselves, and it's not manifestation, that is changing your vibrational frequency to match that of love, that of joy, that of authenticity, that of already being in that reality where that exists. And that again is an instrument and a tool to practice, because it is not something that we are innately taught, that we are able to do as humans. So I hope that answered that. Right. Ooh, okay. Next topic. These spiritual questions, I feel the answers will be a bit longer, and some of the political and economical ones will be short-fired, because yeah, I mean, I would say that I have strong political beliefs, but mine are like anti. So for me, it will be a lot cleaner and easier to just fire through them. All right. And also, I'd love to know your opinions as well. We can welcome this as a heart-centered, compassionate, and understanding debate space for us. Yeah, all right. So the next umbrella of topics, that first one was the ethics of manifesting. This one is spiritual bypassing versus healthy emotional healing, a favourite one of mine. When does spiritual positivity become emotional avoidance? Ooh, this is a good one. This is a good one. And I like this question because there is a lot of finger pointing and illumination on, you know, the term love and light at the moment. And I feel that love and light is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Wishing someone love and light. However, so when does it become emotional avoidance? When we are not being honest with ourselves and others. So let's just go right back to the basics. If someone asks you how you are and you're in the absolute midst of an emotional breakdown or a dark night of the soul, or you're just going through some shit, if someone asks you that and you're like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm great, and you're continuing to do your work, you're continuing to hold other people, but you're not being honest about that, that is definitely personal emotional avoidance. Also, I would say when people or one is really on that path to enlightenment or awakening psychic abilities, reawakening, I should say, psychic abilities and gifts, when they are on that path, but they're not willing to do the body work and not willing to do shadow work and not willing to do childhood trauma healing, which in my opinion and my experience is way more powerful than psychic awakening, because it comes almost naturally once you have started lightening your vessel of the heaviness that comes from avoiding the pain of the truth of emotional wounds. And it often comes from the people closest to us in our lives, mother, father, brother, sister, grandparents, children. Doing that real close up work is like top level spiritual work. So yeah, it's very, very, very important. I'm trying to think, when does spiritual positivity... Yeah, it's a hard one for me. This is a difficult question, actually, because I also truly believe that, well, again, it's complex, right? Because, okay, so what I truly believe is that if we all, as individual souls who are all connected as a part of the same source of love and creation, if and when we as individual souls do the inner work and do the healing and really expand our DNA, when our full DNA comes back online, when we light up our energy centers and our energy field is glowing and we are in a higher state of frequency, when we've got a calm nervous system, when we feel good, that is what I would say being in a state of positivity. Then the world will change. But the contradiction around that is that we have to do the emotional healing to get there. We cannot bypass it. So yeah, I would say that. I would say a great way to see if someone is being spiritually positive, and who is emotionally avoidant, is look at how they treat other people. Look at how they treat other people, and then that will also be a reflection of how they treat themselves. Yeah, because relationships are one of the foundations of knowing thyself and being a human. So yeah, hope that answered that. That was a very difficult one to answer quickly and cleanly. Okay, so does true healing require confronting the pain rather than rising above it? Yes. Yes, it does. You have to feel it to heal it. The more fully and dimensionally you can feel the pain, the more you can move it and expand it through your body. And the more that you will shift your filter and your lens through which you see through that pain, you can't rise above something without having a solid foundation to take care of you. I do talk about this in my multi-dimensions of the healing journey. This is a 2-part series if anyone wants to watch that. It's also a coffee shop chat, so you can find it in the coffee shop chats playlist. Absolutely. Confronting the pain. Yes. Because, and also another thing, the pain that the depth and the level of pain that you have felt within yourself will then be the level of pain and depth that you will be able to hold for others. And isn't that beautiful that we can really be that person and that rock for others? And it takes time, and it doesn't mean that feeling the pain and working through it, it doesn't mean that the pain is going to stop. But what it does mean is that, as I said, the lens through which we see from the pain will change. So our triggers will change and shift and become less, hopefully. And the way that we deal with things will change. The way that we act within ourselves, the way that we, the levels and the layers of self-knowing and self-awareness will deepen and become more obvious the more that we feel and hold and embrace our own painful memories and that which we are holding on to. Okay, so the commercialization of spirituality. Can authentic spirituality be sold as a product? Right, let me have a sip for this one. I feel that there are 2 parallel themes running along here, so let me talk about these. Can authentic spirituality be sold as a product? So I feel, for me, the clue is in the question. Can authentic spirituality be sold as a product? No, because authenticity within itself is individual and unique, and it is wild and free, untamed, soulful expression. So no, it can't be sold as a product. So this might cause some controversy, but if you see someone selling something that's like, do this 10-day course and you will be a master, an ascended master, that is selling spirituality as a product. It's not selling authentic spirituality as a product, because you can't sell authentic spirituality as a product. So I would say that is a red flag. If someone is trying to sell you something saying that you will suddenly be a master, that you will be able to heal people, this is manipulating the ego, and it's something that I personally would be aware of. And then the underlying parallel of this topic is that, should we sell our spiritual services? The answer to this is yes. I do agree that it is ethical to offer your services in exchange for monetary value. And interestingly, this is something that I was taught in my yoga teacher training. One of the yogic philosophies that I was taught was, if someone asks you, how much money do you think it is ethical for you to earn? You just take a moment to think about that, and I was racking my brains. This was about 6-7 years ago. And I was like, just enough to have a house and take care of my family and my loved ones and travel. And then I was like, but then what is that? How do you quantify that and put a number on that? And my teacher said, and this was the teachings of my lineage and the wonderful Sri Yoga Ashram in Rishikesh. They said, well, there's no limit. The only law is that what you are doing to generate your wealth is in integrity and done with good, loving intention. So that's interesting. It's interesting. So can authentic spirituality be sold as a product? Perhaps it can, because if we are authentically coming from a loving place where we genuinely want to help and support others for a higher good and higher purpose, then yes, this can be sold as a product. So these are very, very complex topics, something we have to be aware of. There are a lot of cults that lock people in. If you are ever in a sort of a group training program or working with someone that says you just continually, or locks you into a belief system that you can't let go of them, that you need them for life, for me, that would bring up warning signs that they just want to keep me there for financial gain and not actually help me to grow and evolve. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love having repeat clients, but for me, there's never a push and never a time limit on that. It's always, if you're seeking my help, great, and whenever you're ready, and whatever it is that you need. I'm not going to tell you what you need. You come to me seeking help, and I'll see if I can support you with that. All right, on to the next one. Is the commercial wellness industry exploiting spiritual practices for profit? Yes, I do feel that, again, it comes down to the intention and the integrity of the individual. So I would not say that the whole commercial wellness industry is exploiting spiritual practices for profit. Absolutely not. There are amazing ethical companies out there who care about the earth. They care about the people who are doing the labor. And they actually care about their customers too. There are amazing companies out there. But as I said before, unfortunately, there is a flip side of the coin to everything. So, of course, there are going to be commercial companies and commercial brands that are exploiting slave labor who are not actually supporting the ethical communities. I see this a lot with plant medicine, and I work with some amazing, beautiful humans who very ethically and with a lot of integrity and loving intention work with indigenous communities and plant medicine, and they talk a lot about how this is being abused and mistreated. So yes, there are wellness industries and companies who are exploiting spirituality for profit. So how can I share this in a way that supports us as individuals, as a community? Do a bit more research before just buying something that is advertised to you on social media. Have a look at the website, read about the founders. Yeah, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. You know, you have a right to ask questions. You have a right to your voice and wanting to know answers and wanting to know more information before you purchase something. And the same goes for me. If you're unsure about anything that I am advertising or talking about, I'm always open to questions. I want you to know what you're doing, why you're doing it, and if there's any, unanswered questions or grey areas, that you can get that resolved. Cool. Next, New Age beliefs and scientific evidence. Ooh, interesting one. All right. Should anecdotal spiritual experiences be considered valid without scientific proof? Ooh, okay. I do like this question because I feel that a huge factor for such divide in the world globally at the moment is the disconnect between science and spirituality. And of course, there is some amazing science-backed spirituality now, but it's like, well, we've known this all along. Our ancestors knew it to be true. But there is a huge divide. And as I've mentioned before in many videos, that we are in a world where our minds are being controlled. So we're very much in the age of information, the age of brain forward and ego forward, but we want to drop back into the hearts, where it's like brain, heart and magic and the whole spectrum of who we are. So should anecdotal spiritual experiences be considered valid without proof? Yes, absolutely. I believe if someone has an experience within themselves where they feel a shift or a change, an out-of-body experience, a near-death experience, whatever it may be, any kind of experience that cannot be explained by science, yes, we should believe that person. Experiential experience is amazing and it should be celebrated more. And then what else was I going to say? Oh yeah. However, the day when science and spirituality come together and are actually no longer fighting against each other and one blaming the other or one saying the other is wrong, and come together in harmony, that is when I feel that really amazing shifts and steps forwards could happen for humanity. And they probably already are as well. But the straight answer to that is yes, I do believe that anecdotal spiritual experiences should be considered valid. Yes, absolutely. When does personal belief in healing become dangerous misinformation? This is a very, very important topic. And this comes all the way back to spiritual bypassing and healthy emotional processing. So, does true healing require confronting the pain rather than rising above it? The answer to that was a big yes. And this is linked into, when does personal belief in healing become dangerous information? Because we can be holding someone else through their pain, their grief, their healing, their heartache, whatever it may be. But if we haven't addressed that within ourselves, we're only going to see them, hear them, and understand them through the filter of our own pain. And that is dangerous. That is dangerous because then we are projecting our own pain and our own opinion and our own triggers onto this person who is relying on us to support them. So that's dangerous. And so when does personal belief in healing become dangerous? So that if we haven't done enough of our own emotional healing, childhood trauma healing, family healing, the very foundational relational basics of healing, when we haven't done that, so we get triggered easily, or we find that we're jumping in quickly to give an opinion on things or getting defensive about things. And then it could also become dangerous if we have a mindset or a belief where we're very stuck on something. And I feel like I've went through this with veganism and so many other things, being so stuck on that it's the only right way. We can project that sort of higher and mighty than you feeling onto someone, like they're doing something wrong just because they have different beliefs. And also this can cover cultures, it can cover sexuality, all of these things. So having very strong and inflexible personal beliefs can make it difficult for us to relate to more people collectively. Okay. All right. Can spiritual practices borrowed from other cultures truly be separated from their original context? And when does spiritual appreciation become harmful appropriation? Okay, again, this is a very hot topic, very controversial topic. Okay, so, and this, I do speak about this a lot with my background in teaching yoga. Yoga is something I love. I find that the beliefs are incredible. I still practice yoga. I do still teach yoga on the side. However, there came to a point in my own spiritual journey. I mean, I have absolutely zero lineage in India. Like, I do not have any ancestral lineage that ties me to India or any other countries or lands where the practices and teachings of yoga came from. And I feel that there was something of a disconnect within that for me that I could feel deeply within me. And it's coming to this honest reflection of self, of where we ask ourselves, do I love this thing, whatever it may be? Do I really love it? Which was what I was like with yoga. I was like, oh my freaking God, like yoga changed my life. Yoga was the first practice that helped me to realize that being relaxed and not hyper all the time was a possibility. Yoga helped me with my mental health. Yoga has helped me to evolve myself as a person so deeply. So it was like, do I love this thing? Box one. And is this my purpose? Yeah, those can get so mangled and so crossed over that a lot of us are so passionate about something, and in the beginning this intention is so wholeheartedly sincere and innocent, but then it can become something of trying to prove something and wanting to share things without actually realizing that cultural appropriation is involved. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong with people teaching yoga who are not from India. Hold on, let me just have a sip. I know some incredible yoga teachers who are from England and all over, but they are totally 100% devoted and integral to the lineage of their teaching. And the problem with, I'm just going to use yoga because it's my experience of this, is it's been brought over into the West and has been completely completely changed and transformed into a competition of like who's got the fittest, skinniest body, wearing the coolest, most expensive Lululemon outfit. Let's go to the hardest, most painstaking class where we can stand on the tip of one finger. You know, obviously that's taking it to extremes, but that is completely disregarding the original teachings of yoga. And there are some yoga lineages where the teachers themselves are not in integrity with what they teach. There's been lots of, sadly, stories that have come to the surface of abuse with women, and people are still teaching from these lineages, whereas the teachers who are in integrity have stepped back from teaching that style of yoga and are going back to the more authentic ones. So that's an example, speaking from my own experience, and I'll go a bit deeper into this. So I would say that if you were, you know, and we're all taking and being inspired by bits and pieces of other cultures, but respecting it as much as we can and giving thanks to our teachers and the countries that we've been to, doing what we can to support the integrity of the teachings. And if we are changing something, just explaining that as well, taking the time to differentiate and really putting a lot more care into that. So I think I don't like the question of can spiritual practices be borrowed from other cultures and separated from their original context. I don't feel that we should do that. I feel that if you're completely gonna devote yourself as someone who is not from that culture, completely devote yourself and be in service of that, then that's beautiful. However, if we are going to borrow in inverted commas, then we should share where we have borrowed that information from, give gratitude, give thanks, give more back to wherever it came from. And also, you know, is it necessary to speak in a certain language that is from a different culture? In my opinion, no. Should we dress up the way that they do in another culture? In my opinion, no. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is be yourself. The path to your truth will come through honouring your ancestors and finding the land where you walked from. There's no better, there's no worse than. We each have our own individual magical authenticity in the blood running through our veins. And that was a huge awakening for me, doing the ancestral work of honouring the fact that I am from Northern England and Northern Europe, and I have very, very, very strong witch roots in my blood. So that brought me down the path of witchcraft and honouring nature and the trees. So that's how I made that transition from loving yoga and being obsessed with it and wanting the world to feel as good as I did, to recognising that there are other amazing people teaching it, and that it's not my path and my calling, but I've learned and gained so much from it. So I'm so grateful for my amazing teachers at Sri Yoga Ashram. All right. So that's the spiritual questions done. This is going to be quick fire, current, political, ecological. We'll go quick fire, all right? I've got about 10 minutes I'm going to do because I don't want this to be longer than an hour, this video. All right, here we go. AI regulation. Should governments implement stricter controls on the development and use of artificial intelligence? In my opinions, governments should have no more control than they already do. What I would say is that if governments truly cared, they would put more money, more time and more effort into education and educating children and young adults on how to use their brain and how to have emotional intelligence, rather than worry about artificial intelligence. Naturally, as humans, we're going to keep developing technology. That's the way the world is working. We should focus more on how we can improve as humans, in my opinion. Focus more on consciousness, not on artificial intelligence. That's my little opinion on that. Social media's impact. Ooh, does social media do more harm than good for society? In my opinion, it is totally equal, and it is what you consciously choose to feed into and allow to feed off of you. Yes, there is the celebrity culture of filters and facial augmentation and staying young forever, and there is a lot of spiritual opinions on how you should be acting, thinking, speaking, doing that could be seen as negative. However, social media is an amazing way for us to share, for us to connect, for us to have an alternative media to the mainstream media, which is controlled by the government and controlled by those who hold the powers. So I feel that social media is amazing, but social media is also a minefield of which we should hold a lot of discernment, and we should also do a lot of cord clearing and cutting when using social media. All right. Data privacy. I only very quickly skipped through these questions, by the way. Should companies and governments have the right to collect personal data for security or commercial purposes? In my opinion, no. And I feel that the terms and conditions of data collection should be a lot more given to us. A lot of people don't realize that there's so many settings on your social media and your email accounts that you have to turn off so that data is not collected from you. I feel that this information should be given to us a lot more obviously and freely, so that we as the individual have the choice of how our data is used and collected. I don't feel that it is public knowledge enough for us to really have that free will choice. Censorship. Is content censorship on social media necessary to combat misinformation and hate speech? My opinion, no. I think it is only shutting down our voice even more. And I do believe, and this is my own belief, you can call me a conspiracy theorist or whatever you like, but I do believe that any kind of censorship is always going to be biased, because it is going to be funded by the person or the overriding body who is funding that platform, whether it's social media or the mainstream media. It's going to be biased towards what they want you to think and believe. So I do not believe in censorship, because I don't feel that banning things helps to stop them. It is a bandage solution. And this is one reason actually why I'm creating this video. It is an open space for free speech where we can share from kindness and understanding. So no, I do not believe in censorship. All right. Government priorities. Should climate change be the government's top priority, or is it an overblown and exaggerated issue? Again, I have two sort of parallel personal opinions on this at the moment. One is that the only people who are causing all of the issues on the earth right now are the real top dog industrial consumers who have all of these factories, and they are consuming things at rates in which we do not need. So the mass consumers, and then also the ones who are flying to the environmental summit in their private jets. I believe that all we need as individuals is better education on how to take care of the earth, and how really, really, really small swaps and changes could make a difference. I believe that the powers that be do not give two shits about climate change. It's all a part of global control, because if they did, they would be leading by example. I also believe on a wider scale that Gaia is amazing. So Gaia as a being, she is amazing and she has the power to heal herself, but that doesn't mean that we should abuse that power. But she is way more powerful than we give her credit for, and she could just wipe us all out if she wanted to. Not to scare anyone, but we've seen floods and earthquakes and all kinds of crazy ice ages happen in the past. So that's my opinion on that. All right. Single-use plastics. Is a ban on single-use plastics a practical solution or merely a symbolic gesture? I think it would be great if we could ban single-use plastics. Why not? It all ends up in the ocean. So yes, I think that would be great, as long as the alternative doesn't create something just as bad or worse. GMOs. Are genetically modified organisms more helpful or harmful to society? Straight up more harmful. I believe that GMOs are one of the top causes of most autoimmune diseases, along with emotional issues. That is my opinion. College education. Should college tuition be provided for free? Well, I would love that, but also I don't really agree with the education that the government provides. So that is too much of a controversial question for me to answer quickly. Death penalty. Ooh, wasn't expecting this. Should the death penalty be abolished? Right, again, this is a very complex topic. An interesting one, because I have had past life regressions and memories where on the planet where I lived, this was not on Earth, by the way, this is other planets. On the planet where I lived, if you did something that was not in the agreement of the planet, and this would be something really big, right? You would just automatically get killed. Like, with no question, it was just done. And our ancestors, you know, there would be a lot more killing than there is now. The problem is with now, our current society, is that actually it's not that the death penalty that I have the biggest issue with, it's the system of law, and how easily the system of law can be manipulated to suit the person who has the bigger pocketbook. So for me, it's a question of the ethics of law and the system, the current system, rather than the death penalty. I'm not saying that people should be killed. I don't believe in that. But I feel that the whole system in general, including that of the law, is no longer in service of humanity and the individual. Voting age. Should the legal voting age be lowered to 16? I personally, and I will say this with total honesty, do not believe in voting. I have never voted a day of my life, even though my family have tried to force me to vote. I don't believe in supporting the current political system, because I do not believe that it is charged with kind, loving intention. And I don't know how it would work, and I don't have all the answers to this, but I believe that the whole system, current system, needs to be totally abolished and started afresh for things to actually be changed in the world. So I don't believe in voting, because I don't believe that voting actually brings about any kind of change. Ooh, okay, this is an interesting one. Should euthanasia be legalized for individuals with chronic illnesses, even if they are not terminally ill? Again, this is a complex one, because, you know, I actually do believe that we live in a free will universe, and we should be given the choice around everything. Who should stop us to have the choice of if we want to die? But then the problem with that is, on the other hand of that, I do believe that we are here to live and die with whatever is in our divine plan for our soul. So perhaps euthanasia could be interfering with that divine plan. So I would say I'm on the fence with this, but also there's the issue of the influence from other people. Is someone else convincing you that you want to die so that they can get your inheritance? There's so many complexities to this. So yeah, I would say that I'm not sure on that one. That's a difficult one. Okay, so we've got a couple more minutes. Let's get through these last questions. Ethical consumption. Is it unethical to eat animal meat? If you'd asked me this 5 years ago, I would have said yes. My opinion now, it's not unethical to eat animal meat if you don't believe that it is, right? It's all to do with your own belief systems. I know that my ancestors were hunter-gatherers. They would have hunted and they would have eaten meat sparingly, and then they would have lived off the land. What I do believe to be ethical consumption is very much caring about where you are buying your products from, and this goes for all products, not just animal products, your vegetables and everything. If you grow them, even better, goals. Where they're from, how they're fed, if they are farmed or wild, that's a very important one. Grass-fed. It's an ethical issue if the animals are being tortured and abused. If they are roaming free, if you are hunting yourself, amazing. If you are doing it ceremonially, even better. It's the level of care and intention behind the journey of which you go through towards your consumerist mindset. Okay, so I'll just leave that entirely up to you. If you're eating a lot of meat, a lot of red meat, it can clog up your digestive system. That's just a scientific fact. It can increase your heart rate and your blood pressure. So it's again just about knowing yourself, knowing your body, saying, okay, can I scale back a bit? How would that look like for me? How would that look like ethically? Do I feel like that would support the environment and the animals more? Just think about things. Again, remember, this conversation within itself is an invitation for you to find your own moral standpoint and what works best for you. Okay, that one is the same one. Immigration policies. Should nations implement stricter regulations on immigration and refugee policies? Straight up for me, the answer is no. I believe that the earth, the earth belongs to all of us. I really dislike immigration and walls and the borders. What I personally would say is important is that if someone is going to go and live in another person's country, they should have to go through some sort of training program, testing program, mental health, physical health, spiritual health, all of those things, training to make sure that they are willing and able to respect that country's culture, people, religious beliefs, all of these things. I do feel that if we are going and living on someone else's land, we should be vetted and trained in learning to respect and integrate into that. Okay, so the last one. Military service. Should military service be mandatory for young adults? Simple, gonna say no. I'm not even going to explain. I feel like I don't have to explain. My last life as a human that I can remember was late 60s, 70s, where I died at this time. And I'm still very much in that mindset of war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.